What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a major developing story going on here right now. It's really, really huge here. Take a listen to this and then we will discuss it. Check this out.
It's just a stunning turn of events and a massive unforced error, really, right ahead of the midterm elections. Moments ago, liberal Democrats withdrew an open letter they sent to President Biden suggesting the U.S. tried to negotiate with Vladimir Putin to end his invasion in Ukraine. Now, that sparked fierce backlash within the party. Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss tweeting, quote, "This letter is an olive branch to a war criminal who's losing his war." The Congressional Progressive Caucus chairwoman Pramila Jayapal even defended the letter initially, but now she's saying it was sent by mistake. Let's get right to Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Manu, what's going on here? What's the truth?
Yeah, a number of these members who actually signed this letter that was released this week were surprised. They said they were blindsided. I talked to some of them who said they did not anticipate that Jayapal's office would release this letter this week. They, in fact, had signed this letter in June, pushing the Biden administration to pursue more diplomacy in the war, Russia's war with Ukraine. But some of them said that if they knew this was going to be released this week, they would never have released it they never would have signed on to it in the first place. One veteran Democratic member told me that Democrats were, quote, furious, including some members who were in difficult re-election races who did not want to open up a debate, an inter-party feud about how to deal with Ukraine when the party has united behind sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine at a time when Republicans are divided over this issue. So after backlash, Jayapal just announced moments ago that she would retract this letter that was sent to President Biden. She said in her statement, in part, that the idea that conflating the Democratic position with the Republican position, concerned about more aid, was, quote, nothing could be further from the truth about that. And she said every war ends with diplomacy, and this one will too after Ukrainian victory. The letter sent yesterday, although restating that basic principle, has been conflated with GOP opposition to support for the Ukrainians' just defense of their national sovereignty. As such, it is a distraction at this time, and we withdraw the letter. Now, it has not been yet fully explained why this was released this week. We had asked Jayapal's office about that. They declined to comment about the reason, but after that initial backlash from when it was released on yesterday, she released a statement clarifying the position, saying they support the administration's position, but ultimately untenable as Democrats tried to push back, made clear that they wouldn't have signed on to this letter, forcing an embarrassing about-face from the leader of the Progressive Caucus, someone who has an eye on potentially elevating in the Democratic leadership in the next Congress. But nevertheless, Democrats are hoping to put this feud behind them and move on to the midterm elections, where they're focusing on other issues as they struggle to keep control of the House.
Yeah. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. This is a huge blunder by the Democrats. Even Democrats themselves are saying, what did they do? What did we do? Not a good situation at all. Yeah, they're in complete damage control, trying to figure out, and now they retracted the letter. The problem is that, well, first of all, this letter's from months ago. Second of all, is that first and foremost, one of the long-standing policies of the United States is we don't negotiate with terrorists. But so that's kind of the first thing here. But I do understand what Jayapal's saying there, is that at the end of every war comes some negotiation. You think about, like, at the end of World War II, you had negotiations with Germany and with Japan, and Ukraine and Russia have actually tried to have negotiations multiple times. They've actually had not Putin and Zelensky have sat down, but they have actually had their other leadership teams sit down previously. So they have had negotiations between them, not necessarily the United States. So there has been peace negotiations between the two countries that haven't really led to anything. So this is a part of war, but for the US to be involved in this is really a tough situation because it's not really our war right now. It's really a tough situation, and it's really not a good look here, especially right now because, as they mentioned here, Ukraine is taking back dramatic amounts of land right now. Russia's kind of in the retreat mode. This is very different than where we were even like a month or two ago when Russia was taking land back. So for them to, and again, this is kind of where like, this letter from months ago when it was like, okay, this letter that was signed months ago saying, "Oh, we should negotiate." It's a very kind of untimely letter because it's a completely different circumstance now. Yeah, it's just a complete. I'll show you some headlines here. Uh, People are furious. Jayapal withdraws letter on Ukraine policy amid Democratic anger. Yeah, to put it lightly. Progressives go on damage control after Ukraine diplomacy letter. And the White House says Ukraine aid will remain strong amid fallout from this progressive letter. The White House said here that the U.S. support for Ukraine will remain strong until the war with Russia is over. Comments that come after the Congressional Progressive Caucus withdrew the letter it sent to President Biden on his Ukraine strategy after sparking backlash. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, quote, "Our support for Ukraine will remain strong until the end of this war," adding that she had no comment on the letter itself. Amid blowback over its release on Monday, which asked Biden to push harder for peace negotiations with Russia. Jean-Pierre said it's up to Ukrainian President Zelensky to decide when or if to negotiate with Russians to end the war, which I agree is kind of the more appropriate situation. Quote, White House Press Secretary Jean-Pierre says, "Our job as we see it today, as we've seen it for this past year, more than a year, is to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs on the ground as we see this war happening in Ukraine. We're doing this to strengthen their hand, not just on the battlefield, but if Ukraine chooses to negotiate. But again, that is up to President Zelensky, and he will make that decision for his country." Quote, "Because of the timing, our message is being conflated by some as being equivalent to the recent statement by Republican leader of the House, Kevin McCarthy, threatening to end aid to Ukraine if Republicans take over the House with this next election, referring to widely criticized remarks from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, in a recent interview that the Republican majority would not give a, quote, blank check to Ukraine. Now, remember here that this is where people get a little bit confused here with this. It's not President Biden who has sent the money to Ukraine. Okay, all the money that has gone to Ukraine, which is mostly majority of it is defense weaponry and stuff like that. Okay, it's not just like they're sending bundles of cash to Ukraine. The vast majority of this stuff is defense weaponry, defense systems, and things like that. Okay. All of it had to be approved by Congress, Republicans and Democrats. Okay. And it overwhelmingly got approved by Congress. So it's not just Democrats, it's not just Republicans, it's not just Biden. All of it had to be approved by Congress first, and then President Biden got to sign it at the very end. Okay, so Republicans had to approve all this stuff too, just so everybody's clear on that. And Republicans overwhelmingly supported it as well. Now, with that being said, this could change in the future if Republicans take over the House. Um, they could block it in the future and say no more aid at all, which means that Ukraine might not be able to defend themselves. But remember here that there's dozens of other countries that are helping in the aid and defense of Ukraine. Just to give you a quick glimpse of this, the entire European Union has announced multiple different packages, two major packages at the beginning of the war, 353 million, 535 million, along with 600 million euros to Ukraine itself, another 400 million to support countries that have taken on Ukrainian refugees, $2 billion in loan financing. The United Kingdom has committed a total of $1.7 billion as well, and has sent another $2.3 billion of military aid. Germany has also sent a $1 billion grant. Some of these things are in their local currencies, but kind of gives you the general idea. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have sent packages worth $2.2 billion and $3 billion. Just to give you guys a quick glance here of some of these things here. $200 million announced for the United Nations Refugee Agency. All sorts of different countries and nations providing us, not just the United States. But the bigger question here is, how long is this going to go on? How does the war end? How much more is this going to cost? How much more lives is this going to cost? Imagine if you were over in Ukraine and literally there's hospitals and apartment buildings being bombed and being shot on a daily or a weekly basis. The threat of nuclear bombs is a very real thing. And the threat of the nuclear reactors being shot or bombed are a very real thing as well. And the question here is, when can this actually end? And the reality of it is that there's really a couple ways that this ends. Is that Russia's completely driven out of Ukraine and held off, or negotiations. And really, if you look at what's happening, Putin is not stopping at all. So, or Putin's taken out some way, and then Russia, put somebody else in who doesn't want to continue on with the status quo, because if they just put somebody else in who continues on with the status quo, it's just like replacing him with somebody else who's just like him, which is a very real possibility if that even happens. He has had several assassination attempts against him here not that long ago. And there may even have been some that we haven't even heard of, because, news out of Russia really doesn't get reported all the time. We only sometimes know what we hear about. But his limousine was attacked, and he escaped. Is at least one that we have heard about. So, who knows what might happen here, but really the kind of hope here is that we can end this war sometime soon without a nuclear attack happening. That is really the ultimate goal. So, and really, probably at some point, there's going to have to be some type of negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. And from what it looks like, Ukraine doesn't want to give up any land, and Putin doesn't want to come out of this war looking like a loser, or Russia doesn't. Either one. So it's a difficult situation to come up with some type of negotiation. And now it's looking like President Zelensky, Ukrainian President Zelensky says, quote, "We will definitely liberate Crimea as well." And, these type of things might make Putin even more backed into a corner or more unallowing to let these type of things happen. And he may consider this an attack on Mother Russia. And these are the type of things that may provoke him to actually use a nuclear weapon. Remember, Putin said if there's any attacks on Russian territory, that would be what he would consider um, a line in the sand for them having to use nuclear weapons. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But this is something we don't want to have happen. It would send stock markets worldwide crashing, crumbling. They'd have to probably stop them immediately and not even reopen them. And this could escalate into a World War III type of situation. Would the U.S. then and NATO have to get involved? And again, we don't want to be involved in this. We don't want to even have a single nuclear weapon even used at all. So at some point, we have to try to find a way for the war to end without, well, first of all, with the minimum amount of casualties. I mean, look at how long it's been going on now. We're going to be coming up on a year here soon. And also to end it without a nuclear catastrophe with both nuclear reactors and also nuclear bombs. So you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, but this is increasingly becoming a worry, especially almost as Ukraine takes more territory back. It's almost like Putin becomes more and more unpredictable. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, it's completely free to do so. Click the bell icon after you subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos on our YouTube channel, and I will keep you up to date here. In fact, you can click here to see my video of what Russia just did to Alaska and also to our government websites. Really good video there. Or you can click my newest video about millions of Americans getting checks and delivery dates. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.